I'm excited to present this content. Here you'll find the answer to the riddle from video 16. In the previous videos, we've been working to decrypt an ancient time tracking system, an alphabet-based Alef-Tav star calendar or star map. We've decoded several important clues that will help us decipher additional details. Even though some elements are missing, the hope is that by exploring the narrative through the lens of the Alef-Tav star calendar, we may uncover these missing pieces. Now, today it may sound cool to say, the Noah narrative contains a hidden map related to the motion of the sun, moon, and planets against the backdrop of our galaxy. That concept sounds epic to a generation accustomed to computerized and mechanical clocks. But back then, observing the motion of the heavens was the obvious and only choice for tracking time, as it is written, for signs, for seasons, and for days and years. Back in video 10, we began exploring a clue. That is, the start date of a very rare quintuple planetary grouping. This happened on October 21st, -2726. The subsequent videos reveal a series of celestial events that align precisely with the dates listed in the Noah narrative. Each time period mentioned in the Noah calendar corresponds to celestial events, such as planetary conjunctions, retrograde motions, the fall equinox, the summer solstice, and a solar year measured by lunar cycles. For those unfamiliar with this preliminary research project, here is a quick summary. The Noah narrative tracks the movements of the red and blue portions of our galaxy over the course of a year. The central red portion represents land, while the blue regions represent water or floods. Over the year, the red portion sinks below the horizon and is replaced by the blue band overhead. Then, as the blue region settles back onto the horizon, like floodwaters receding, the red portion reappears, symbolizing dry land. The Noah narrative focuses on preserving living creatures during the flood. To explore whether the ancient scholars identified creature shapes in the Milky Way, we cross-reference descriptions of the creatures in the Book of Job with apparent shapes in the Milky Way. After identifying many creature shapes in the red portion of the galaxy, we can further expand on what the Noah narrative describes as a calendar. Specifically, the red portion containing these creature shapes is blotted out and replaced by a type of flood represented by the blue band of stars. The Noah narrative records all that was on the dry land and in whose nostrils was the breath of the spirit of life died. Thus he blotted out every living thing that was on the face of the land, from man to animals to creeping things and birds of the sky, and they were blotted out from the earth. This project has been called the Alef-Tav Calendar Research Project because the Paleo Hebrew alphabet is part of this calendar system. Back in video 9, we uncovered clues that the 22 letters of the ancient Hebrew alphabet may have been used to divide the ecliptic into 22 regions, thus enabling a time-tracking calendar. The sunset horizon served as a transversal line to bisect recognizable shapes in the Milky Way. Over a period of time, it became clear that the common names for the Hebrew letters describe recognizable shapes in the Milky Way, forming a coordinate system to track portions and movements of the sun, moon, and planets. In video 39, we uncovered ancient knowledge that these 22 letters weren't based on Earth's rotation for days in a year, or the moon's position for months, but instead were linked to Mercury's 22 apparent retrograde motions. This pattern takes 7 years to complete the bounds of all 22 letters, resetting with a slight offset at the end of each cycle. While reading the Noah narrative, we found numerous allusions to this Paleo Hebrew alphabet calendar system. The sun, moon, and planets are located in regions corresponding to alphabet calendar constellations, and the narrative draws attention to these regions. The sun, moon, and planets are located in regions corresponding to alphabet letter constellations, and the narrative draws attention to these celestial regions. For instance, the date of the flood of waters corresponds to a major planetary conjunction in the letters Mem, meaning water, and Nun, meaning fish. Hebrew uses Mem starting words to describe this major conjunction: Mabul, which is flood, and Maim, which is water. This Mem or water region also marks the start of the rainy season. We were able to work out a starting date for the flood narrative. The details in the narrative were used both to decrypt and verify the Alef-Tav calendar system. Now, what would happen if we were to, say, count backward from Noah to Adam, using the genealogy lists in Genesis 5? Genesis 5 contains a list of birth dates and deaths from Adam to Noah. Will this add more clues and details to this calendar system? For families like ours that regularly read scriptures, you will know that both kids and adults have difficulties pronouncing the Hebrew names in the genealogy lists. Some even have trouble staying awake while the names and ages are being read. From a literary perspective, it seems strange that multiple books and scriptures contain long lists that are difficult for readers to process. Is there something hidden in the Genesis 5 genealogy that has been lost, or even hidden for thousands of years? The book of Genesis Bereshit in Hebrew, contains literary wordplays that are meaningful only in the original Hebrew language. Let's start with a chart of dates, names, and meanings of names. Then we will use Stellarium software to observe these dates. For those whose native tongue is Hebrew, the meanings of the names will be easy. For those of us whose native tongue is not Hebrew, but rather English or another language, this may seem challenging at first. Hebrew is the language of the book, because it includes names alongside immediate explanations of each name that make sense only in Hebrew. You are about to see how this is not a primitive narrative. You will see that the author is very intelligent, keeping a calendar system well preserved and hidden in plain sight within this famous narrative. It is not an easy puzzle to decipher, and this endeavor will be prone to some mistakes. While working through the calendar system within the Noah narrative, we noticed that the Alef-Tav prefixed words may have been used as markers or signs, prompting the reader to observe celestial events in various regions of space. Genesis 5 has many of the names prefixed with Alef-Tav. Now, I'm a nerd who likes spreadsheets. Genesis 5 will be a simple spreadsheet. Time is tracked by adding up the birth ages. We'll create some title columns: age, event, year, notes. We add the year of the flood, -2726. We add Noah's age, 600 at the flood. We add Noah's age, 500 when Shem, Ham, and Japheth were born. We add Lamech's age, 182 when Noah was born. Now, with the dark arts of spreadsheet formulas, we can quickly go back to the start date of Adam. Well, what's so special about the year -4382? There are many estimates for the date of Adam in Genesis. Yes, indeed. There are lots of estimates. Yet, how many of those estimates are based on events that can be observed in the night sky and match the narratives? In any other language, this list of names has little to no meaning. However, in Hebrew, the names are filled with meaning. So we add the Hebrew names and their various meanings from the lexicons. Now we have a spreadsheet. As this spreadsheet is a birthday list, we will use the clue we found back in video 37, which provides a hint to the month Noah was born. And it came to pass in the 601st year, in the first month, on the first day of the month. Noah's 601st birthday was August 27th in Stellarium, compensating for the precession of the equinox. This would be the early August season in today's calendar. Is there something special about the birth month of Noah? It seems strange that each of the dates in the Noah narrative marks special events that could be observed in the movements of our solar system, except the date in this verse. Was there an apparent retrograde motion on this date? No. Was there an equinox or solstice on this date? No. Were there any planetary conjunctions on this date? No, there were not. Was there an eclipse on this date? No eclipse. Is there a measurement of time that we are missing here? Maybe there is something else that is being tracked in the night sky. It does seem a strange coincidence, maybe even a clue, that on the first day of the first month, on an ancient New Year's Day, Noah's age increased from 600 to 601. In a previous video, we noticed that there were two different words for first, which led us to focus on the word that was translated as first month, Rishon. The head word of Rishon is Rosh, meaning head. Under the same head word is Reshit, translated beginning, which is the first word in Genesis, Bereshit. Let's tuck these three words away in our memory for later. Head, Rosh. First, Rishon. Beginning, Reshit. Another related Jewish phrase found outside the Torah is a feast called Rosh Hashanah, which means head of the year. On this date, an animal horn is blown, in Hebrew, teruah, on Rosh Hashanah. The Jewish people also have a tradition of another birth date. The festival of Rosh Hashanah marks the birthday of the first two human beings, Adam and Eve. Let us attempt to use the spreadsheet we created. The date of Adam, -4382. However, we have a new problem with this first month, Rishon. Namely, there are a few ways to track longer periods of time. The difference is due to Earth's slow, top-like wobble, called the precession of the equinoxes. First, we could measure by tropical year. Tropical year is when the changing years are kept in sync with the seasons. The Greek word tropikos has the sense of turning point of the sun's annual seasonal motion. The tropical year is ideal for farming. Here is an animation in Stellarium showing the equinox moving with the sun. Second, the sidereal year. The sidereal year is where each year is fixed to a region of stars. Sidereus comes from the Latin word sidus, meaning star or constellation. Using a sidereal year is not ideal for farming, as Earth's seasons will slowly shift in relation to the stars. The details and clues in this calendar puzzle can at times seem difficult. Isaac Newton's quote seems fitting here. No great discovery was ever made without a bold guess. Using our spreadsheet, let us roll back time to the start of the Genesis narrative, -4382. We will make a bold guess, as it were, and place the sun in the same region as Noah's first month, Rishon, for Adam's first month. Even if the month guess is wrong, it will only be out by 30 days or so. The sun is in the region where the letter Yod resides. From the first to the seventh day, the sun moves next to a bright star in the ecliptic called Spica. Could this bright star on the ecliptic have been an ancient marker for the head or start of the year in these early narratives? Was it a combination of when this bright star disappears into the sunset, plus the appearance of the new moon on the horizon, as a combination of markers for the ancient first day of the head month? We've set the year to -4382 in order to hunt for patterns that could be used in a calendar. Are there any planetary conjunctions? Are there any apparent retrograde motions? Are there any eclipses? Are there any interesting interactions with our solar system and the Milky Way? The moon traverses the Milky Way during the 7-day period. Does the moon step through 7 apparent shapes to mark the 7 days of Genesis 1? Is it an equinox or solstice time of year? Is there anything in the context of Genesis 5 that might mark clues? There is an Alef-Tav before the name of each son when they are born. If I were to announce that I'm going to have a son at any of these ages in this list, I would probably get some interesting looks and comments. Could the birth ages themselves be part of a calendar? Let's look now at the fall equinox mark in Stellarium. Knowing that apparent shapes in the Milky Way were used to track the passage of time, let us investigate if Genesis 5 calendar is tracking the slow precession of the equinox. First, let us see if we can find an apparent shape in the Milky Way that could represent Adam. Genesis 2 verse 7 has the sense of Adam being formed from the dust of the ground, or Adamah, even red ground. Even though the sun is not in the fall equinox mark, the fall equinox marker in Stellarium is hovering over a reddish, dust-like region of the Milky Way. Wait. Here is an apparent shape that resembles a man, or in Hebrew, Adam. Well, that's just random chance. There is only one way to find out if it's just random. Let's move the date to the birth of Seth. in Hebrew, it's Shet. In our spreadsheet, the date is -4252. The name Shet is explained in Genesis 4, verse 25. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son, and named him Shet. For God has set, or in Hebrew, shot, to me another seed instead of Abel, whom Cain killed. The word set is too vague to find an apparent shape for. Let's revisit the lexicons. Look, here. There is another word that is spelled exactly the same. Shet. This other word has a sense of seat of the body, or buttocks. I can see why the lexicons do not relate these two words, even though they are spelled exactly the same in Hebrew. Who would call their son a buttocks? Shet. You can't seriously be trying to make me observe a buttock shape in the Milky Way? Well, you can set yourself down when you sit on your seat or buttocks. So we found 2 for 2 apparent shapes that could possibly match the narrative. Let's see if this pattern continues. We will move on to the third birth date in Genesis 5, -4147. Enosh, which has the sense of a mortal man or a sick man. Enosh. The next birth date is -4057. Canaan. The name etymology relates to possess or make a nest, builder, a wind instrument player. Canaan. The next birth date is -3987. Mahalalel. Praiser of God, one who praises God. Mahalalel. The next birth date is -3922. This is an interesting match. Yared. This name has the sense of descent. Look at this. A tiny man going down what looks like a set of stairs. Yared. The next birth date is -3760. Chanok. The lexicons relate this name to trained, educated, or dedicated. in the sense of dedication offering, dedicating a house, dedicating an altar, or even the feast of dedication, Hanukkah. This dedication has the sense of initializing something new, hence training. Here is a guess for the shape representing this name, Chanok. At this point in the precession of the fall equinox, at the top of the galactic bulge, we find it narrows out and disappears. The next birth date is -3695. Methuselah. This name seems to be made up of a few words. Meth, mem tov, man, few men or mortal man, as in death. The vav, of or his. The shin lamed chet has the sense of sword, weapon, dart, in the sense of to send. So we could translate this man of dart, his death dart, his death sent, his mortal man dart, a man of the sword or his man sent, etc. The region is marked with the fall equinox, but it is difficult to guess the shape the author intended. The dense, colorful band transitions into a dark, thin dust cloud. Methuselah. The next birth is dated -3508. Lamech. The Brown Driver Briggs lexicon relates this name to a head word, lamad, meaning to learn. However, this ends in a dalet and not a kaf. The lexicons admit that they are uncertain to the meaning of lamech, from an unused root of uncertain meaning. This uncertainty made me curious if the lamed was not part of the root word, but rather a simple prefix meaning two, and the last two letters, mem kaf, were the root word itself. So I searched for words, beginning with mem and ending with kaf, and they seem to be somewhat related. Again, please use your own discretion with this. Mook has the sense of wax poor, poor. Makak has the sense of brought low and decay. Ma'ak has the sense of bruised, struck, and pressed. You will have to use your own judgment if the author intended these root words to describe this region of space, where the dark dust cloud becomes a very thin band. Lamech. To wax poor, to decay, to press or squeeze. The next birth in the list is now Noah, or Noach, -3326. The author explains the meaning of his name, and he called his name Noach, saying, "This one will give us rest concerning our work and the toil of our hands, because of the ground or Adamah which the Lord has cursed." So Noah and give us rest are related. From the thin band where Lamech was found, the dark dust band widens and now resembles someone resting flat. Noach. The author's comment on Noach is tying him back to the earlier narrative. There was no man to till the Adamah. God formed Adam from the dust of the Adamah. Cursed is the Adamah because of you. Till you return to the Adamah, because from it you were taken. From dust you are, and to dust you shall return. The last three names are the sons of Noach. Each name is marked with Alef-Tav. These three sons appear to be born in the same year, -2826. Et Shem, et Ham, et Yafet. Their names, in order, mean name, then hot, and lastly, expansion or spacious and open. These three names may have represented this beautiful region of space. Here are some lexicon search queries on these three names. Shem, beginning with Shin, ending with Mem. Shacham is an onyx stone, which is black. Ham, beginning with Chet, ending with Mem, means hot or dark brown. Chum, translated as brown. Yafet, multiple clues have slowly come together to reveal that these ancient authors were tracking the slow motion of the fall equinox against the backdrop of the Milky Way. Genesis 5 is truly an amazing advanced genealogy list, a calendar system that ends with a flood in -2726. The fall equinox mark on our ecliptic path begins to move beyond the dense stars of our Milky Way and is heading out into open space. The Noah narrative said, "Of all that was on the dry land, all in whose nostrils was the breath of the Spirit of life died. Thus he blotted out every living thing that was upon the face of the land, from man to animals to creeping things to birds of the sky, and they were blotted out from the earth." From previous videos, we have demonstrated that the Noah narrative is describing the central galactic bulge sinking below the horizon. The planetary conjunction in -2726 within the flood narrative appears to mark the end of the genealogy calendar system of Genesis 5. as there are now no more apparent nebulae shapes, there seems to be a change in the way time is going to be tracked. The narrative states, "And the Lord said, My spirit shall not strive with man forever, for he is indeed flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. This might be a clue to how time is going to be tracked moving forward in these narratives. We are rediscovering these ancient calendar systems in 2025 AD. Our generation is very accustomed to describing years with our Roman calendar system. To us, it may seem foreign to track the passage of time using the fall equinox and genealogies. The equinox is one of the slower movements that can be observed over long periods of time. This method worked well when the equinox was on top of the Milky Way, but as it slowly moved beyond the Milky Way, there became fewer reference points to track the slow precession of the seasons in relation to fixed stars. The flood at the time of Noah is not only blotting out the living creatures, but is also marking a change in this ancient calendar system. Will there be another genealogy time tracking system when we pick up the family line in Genesis 11? It is truly amazing that the descendants of Noah through his son Shem found a way to preserve this ancient knowledge in writing all the way down to today. The discovery of axial precession usually is attributed to Hipparchus of Rhodes or Nicaea, a Greek astronomer. According to Ptolemy's Almagest, Hipparchus measured the longitude of Spica and other bright stars, comparing his measurements with the data from his predecessors, Timocharis and Aristillus. He concluded that Spica had moved 2 degrees relative to the autumnal equinox. Virtually all the writings of Hipparchus are lost, including his work on precession. They are mentioned by Ptolemy. After equinox passed through the Milky Way, it makes sense that this bright star, Spica, allowed the Greek nation to later rediscover this precession of the equinox. Spica is easy to measure because it is bright and close to the ecliptic path where the sun, moon, and planets pass by. In the Alef-Tav Calendar system, Spica is found in the letter Yod. It seems the sun travels past Spica around the time of Rosh Hashanah, head of the year. Knowing that the genealogy from Adam is tracking the precession of the fall equinox, let us revisit the family of words relating to this Rishon, or first month. Rosh, head. Rishon, first. Reshit, beginning. The family of words all relates to the root word, head, Rosh. Is this an ancient reference to these apparent head shapes? The 7th month in Moses' calendar was the first, or Rishon, month of Noah's calendar. The feast of Rosh Hashanah, or the head of the year, was marked by blowing an animal horn, called teruah. I couldn't help but notice the dark dust cloud nebula that appears prominently at this time of year. Modern astronomers call it the Pipe Nebula because it resembles a pipe for smoking tobacco. However, it could have very well also matched a shofar horn, which traditionally is blown on the first day of the first month, called today Rosh Hashanah. Adam's formation date of -4382 is unique in that both the spring and the fall equinox were at either end of the Milky Way. Here, in the galactic bulge, we find the yellow marker for the fall equinox. And over here at the opposite side, we find the yellow marker for spring equinox. Throughout the year, Earth's equator and the ecliptic path of our galaxy intersect during the equinox. This date of -4382 seems to also be a rough estimate of when the galactic equator aligns with both Earth's equator and the ecliptic path at the time of the equinox. For now, I'll leave you with one last twist to this calendar puzzle. There is something strange about Genesis 5 genealogy tree when it was translated from Hebrew to Greek, and from Hebrew to the Samaritan Pentateuch. For some reason, those that translated from Hebrew to Greek added an additional 100 years to 6 of these birth dates, then subtracted 20 from one and added 6 to another. Translating to the Samaritan Pentateuch, there were 3 subtractions and 1 addition to the birth dates. Now, there are various theories as to why the translations have discrepancies in their numbers. Could it be that the Jewish people were aware that their narratives contained an ancient calendar system mapping the night sky? Was it really just a translation mistake? Or did they purposefully hide their knowledge from the other nations?